Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Lights, camera, debate, ignite, passion strong under the spotlight. Tune in for the clash, tune in for the spark, the critic and the cynic light up the dark.
Hey, what's up, and welcome back to The Critic and the Cynic. My name is Dave, and I'm going to be the critic with you this evening, and with me, as always, is...
Hilary.
Who will be...
The Cynic.
That's right. We're still on Season 2, okay? We're on the second episode of Season 2, and once again, we're talking about Tearjerkers. These are movies that, at one point in our lives, had made one or both of us emotional. Mostly, it's just one of us. And it's usually a movie that only one of us has seen, but some of them we have both seen. The first episode, we talked about The Lovely Bones as well as The Peanut Butter Falcon. Now, we both saw The Lovely Bones in the past, so that was an example of something that we both saw. And the first time around, I think we both agreed. The Lovely Bones is more of an emotional movie than The Peanut Butter Falcon. But in my opinion, I thought that they were both beautiful films, but just in different ways. But today, we're talking about two more movies. We're going to try to figure out which ones, if any, will make us tear up the most.
Alright.
So we got our little spinner wheel here. Remember, we're doing this randomly to figure out what we have. So no agendas here. So let's click the button and find out what's going on. The first movie chosen is a classic that we have both seen.
It is a classic. I grew up watching this movie.
It is My Girl.
My Girl.
I think that most people have seen My Girl. It's just one of those movies where it's just like, you can't go through life without seeing it.
Yep. You got Dan Aykroyd. You got Jamie Lee Curtis.
I want to even...
Culkin.
Yeah, I want to say that I've seen My Girl 2, but it's...
Oh yeah, My Girl 2 is also fun. And then Anna, is it Chlumsky or... Chlumsky, right?
Chlumsky, yeah.
Been in a lot of things.
Yeah.
She was in My Girl. She was in My Girl 2. And I feel like she was in some TV shows recently, like Inventing Anna or something like that.
So
I don't know.
You guys are listening to this. There's no way that we're going to be talking about this movie as a tearjerker without spoiling it.
Everybody's seen it.
Everybody has seen it, but just in case you haven't, go ahead and watch it and come back to the podcast, because there's really only one thing that makes it a tearjerker, and it's at the end.
Yes.
Everything else is more or less a coming-of-age, like, story
Absolutely.
with a couple of kids in a weird situation.
And we were talking about coming of age with female characters, and of course, the female experience with puberty is very different than the male experience that is dealt with in this movie.
So, let's go ahead, let's see. There's a tagline here. When your dad's an undertaker, your mom's in heaven, and your grandma's got a screw loose, it's good to have a friend who understands you, even if he is a boy. That's basically the plot. That's a really long tagline.
It's a very long tagline.
But I'll just read the premise. Veda, is that how you say her name?
Oh yeah, Veda.
Veda Sultanfuss.
Sultanfuss, yeah.
That's such a weird name.
It's her
Weird
name.
first name, weird last name. Veda Sultanfuss is obsessed with death. Her mom's dead, and her father runs a funeral parlor. She is also in love with her English teacher and joins a poetry class over the summer just to impress him. Thomas J., her best friend, is allergic to everything and sticks with Veda despite her hang-ups. When Veda's father hires Shelley and begins to fall for her, things take a turn for the worse. Couple pointers here. I have rated it on Tracked.tv. I gotta get back to rating things on Tracked.tv because it's a good way to see in general how I think about a movie. But on Tracked.tv, I did rate it 10 out of 10.
Did you? I didn't think you liked it that much.
Well, it's a good movie.
It's fantastic.
However, would you look at that? Look at Rotten Tomatoes score. 50%. Is that correct? Let's go to the actual website.
It's just sad, guys. I mean, this is iconic. You have iconic cast. You have an iconic storyline. I mean, it's right up there. I mean, yeah, maybe dated, I guess. But I grew up watching this.
My Girl, 55% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 77 for Popcorn Meter. That's the general audience. That's a lot lower than I would imagine.
Yeah, I always thought that this was revered as a classic and loved classic.
Yeah, here you go right here. My Girl has a mostly sweet story and a pair of appealing young leads, but it's largely undone by its aggressively tear-jerking ending.
Oh, okay, so they don't like it because it's sad.
They say it like that ruined it. Like they said, the ending made it worse. I think you can't have it without the ending.
The ending is just so important for her.
And people would forget this movie existed, I would imagine, a lot more so if that ending wasn't what it was.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's so important to her. And even if you've seen My Girl 2, it's something that she carries with her forever. It's something that, you know, it affects her whole life.
Yeah. So I'm curious on this. I think that you and I watched this the last time that I watched it. Yeah, June 26, 2017 was the last time I watched it.
Yeah.
It was, a few years ago, but we were, still together. We were together for like 3 years at that point, so. And it was the middle of summer. Yeah, we were probably just hanging up to watch it. So I'm very curious on if I still think it's as good as I said it was before. Which brings us, let's go back to our random wheel, whatever it's called, and find out what's next on the list.
Yeah, I'm not happy about this.
Okay, so the second movie that we're going to be talking about in this episode is 7 Pounds, which is a Will Smith film. It is the movie that I wanted to add, and I did add first to the list of all the movies that we're taking a look at this season, because I love the movie. The first thing that I think of when I think of an emotional movie, a movie that makes me emotional or could make me emotional, whether it's the best of the list or not, it is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Well, I have never seen it, mostly because I am not a fan of Will Smith.
Yeah, I know you're not a fan of a lot of big names.
Other than Independence Day, I would prefer not to watch his movies.
Have you even seen him in a drama?
I don't know.
You've seen him in comedies like Fresh Prince, and you've seen Independence Day, which is an action film, plus a little bit of Fresh Prince in there as well, because that was very, very early Will Smith. But, like, some of his most powerful and important and memorable movies are the dramas.
Oh, okay, and I know that you don't get all hung up on celebrity gossip, but I find it entertaining, and his celebrity gossip is just kind of weird. So that's just another facet to not being his greatest fan.
It's not that weird.
It's kind of weird.
He slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars. Okay,
but like the whole... I'm blanking on her name right now, but like whoever he's married to, like it's
Jada
just
Pinkett.
weird. It's just weird, and his kids are a little bit weird, and like
the only thing that makes that story weird is Jada Pinkett.
Okay, that's fine, but the whole weirdness surrounding him just kind of paints him in a way that I just
okay. I read his autobiography. I listened to the audiobook version, which he narrated, and a lot of the stuff that you think is weird makes a lot of sense when you listen to it.
Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I am not his biggest fan.
However, we will have a later season where we just talk about all things Will Smith.
No.
Yep.
No.
I have a list. I got a list of the movies.
Well, then you know what? Then I'm going to just pull out somebody that I really like that you're just like, ew, gross.
You did. You asked me who, and I'm like, I don't know. There is nobody. Unless you can find like a bunch of movies where Taylor Swift is in or something.
There are a bunch of movies. We'll watch Cats. We'll watch Valentine's Day.
All you're doing is torturing yourself.
Yes.
Cats was awful. And it's not because of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's barely in it. She's in it for like one song. But the rest of the movie sucks.
I don't care. Then we'll watch the Eras tour.
That's not a movie.
Hey, I don't know.
Anyways, let's open up. Tracked 7 Pounds. I rated this 9 out of 10. Obviously, the poster's not giving you anything. It's just Will Smith against a white background looking at the camera.
Yep.
I mean...
which is just thrilling.
Could they have thought of a better poster? Absolutely. But this is another type of movie where you should probably go in as blind as possible. He's got a few movies like that, but this one for sure. It has Will Smith, Rosario Dawson, who He's played opposite of quite a few different times in his career. Almost everything that I've seen him and her do together, I've really enjoyed. Woody Harrelson, Michael Ealy, Barry Pepper, who I've seen in a few different things, but they're all do a pretty good job in this. The tagline reads, 7 names, 7 strangers, 1 secret. And it is that secret, which is why it's probably important to watch it as blind as possible. But we will read the premise here, which is pretty short because it doesn't want to give too much away here. And that is, an IRS agent with a fateful secret embarks on an extraordinary journey of redemption by forever changing the lives of 7 strangers. This is one movie that I have a hot take on, and that is that most people don't actually like it. It's one of these really split ones. I guess I shouldn't say most people. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 75%, but it's 26% rotten on
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Rotten Tomatoes. And it might be the same reason for My Girl, because it has a good story, but some people just really don't like dark things.
Okay, I'm sorry, but having a sad ending or a dark story is not an excuse not to like something.
No, I agree.
Refuse to be one of those people that are like, if it doesn't end happy, I'm not going to watch it. That's stupid. Life is messy. Life is dark. Life is sad. Sometimes it's happy, but more often it's shit.
That is your mother, though.
I know it's
Your
my
mom,
mother.
so
I'm just
I won't
like,
watch. Like, I get it. You can have a preference to want a happy ending. I get it.
well, sure.
But, like, it doesn't mean I'm going to say no all around sad endings.
No, I am well-rounded when it comes to movies and when it comes to books and stories. I don't care what it is. If it's nonfiction, fiction, fine. If it's sad, happy, thriller, horror, doesn't matter. I read it all. I watch it all. It is what it is. I mean, you're in the mood sometimes for certain things.
Hey, you are well-rounded. I'll give you that. But there are some movies, there are some people, and there are some genres that you do avoid.
Musicals. Mostly musicals.
Yeah.
Because they drive me crazy.
But you're looking at it on the surface stuff.
I understand that. I can deal with a lot. I can go downright crazy and go down the rabbit hole and watch something that's just insane. And that's fine. But if people are breaking out and synchronized dancing and singing, that's where I draw the line. I'm like, nope, not gonna happen, can't do it.
What was that one series that was on TV that was a musical series?
My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or something, wasn't it? That
They
musical?
had one, but I didn't really watch that series.
The playlist.
Maybe. Yeah. It wasn't the playlist, but it was
Well,
something
yeah,
like that.
it was something. It's like some girl's name playlist or something.
Yeah. The way that they explained it, I mean, obviously it made a lot of sense because all of this was happening in this girl's head because she had some kind of, like, literally a medical condition where she could only see these people sing and dance when she feels a certain way. And it is people expressing how they feel. Like, she can read their minds almost, but she's reading their minds through song and dance because that is how people often express themselves. In real life, people express themselves through lyrics of song and poetry and things like that. So
that's all fine. And I'm not going to say that I hate every single musical that comes along. I am just going to say that most of them, not for me. Grease, I'm okay with. I'm good with that. I'm okay with Moulin Rouge.
What's the difference?
I don't know what the difference is.
Is it just the songs?
It could just be the songs. Like, if the songs are not, like, I don't know.
See, Grease, that's nothing comparative to. Grease is a number of Broadway songs. Moulin Rouge is a collection of actual pop songs.
Okay, I like that.
I mean, Across the Universe, all Beatles songs.
And I also make a distinction between movies about music
Yeah,
and,
obviously,
and
yes.
movies where
That's-
music is the huge component.
I do too, and that's a big pet peeve of mine is when I try to find musicals online and it's really difficult because they put everything under the collection of music movies, and I'm
So like August
no.
Rush. Oh, I love August Rush. Actually, that is a tearjerker to me.
Yeah,
It's just stunning.
yeah.
The soundtrack's amazing.
I mean, yeah, we went from tearjerkers to musicals.
I'm just saying.
But there is a distinction, though. A lot of people do consider musicals to have tear-jerking moments.
Because music.
Because music, yeah.
mean-
Music is the entryway to the soul, you know?
I cry to Do You Like Pina Coladas?
Yeah, I know, you tell me all the time.
And every time it's on the radio, I start crying.
Every time I hear it, I just kind of want to do a
Yes,
little
I
jig, a
know,
little dance.
Because I'm the weirdo. But I'm sorry, if you really take it to heart and you really listen to what it's about.
A lot of people don't, though. I
know.
don't really do, so.
You don't. I'm a lyrics person. You're not. It's all right.
Anyways, that's our two movies in question. We got My Girl and 7 Pounds. We're going to go ahead, we're going to check those out, and after the break, we're going to be discussing these two movies and find out, are they emotional? Are they tearjerkers? Only time will tell. Alright, now we're back, okay? We just saw our two movies of the week. First starting off with My Girl, which probably out of the list of all of the movies on this entire season of the podcast, I've probably seen that one the most.
I've definitely seen. I could recite that movie.
Yes.
I knew line after line.
So you were saying, yep. Yeah, it's a good movie. I think in general, I don't know so much about it being a tearjerker other than the end.
I did tear up a couple times throughout the movie, only because of like the foreshadowing for the end.
Right.
But I mean, obviously the end is a gut punch, and
Right.
you know, you cry pretty much the rest of it, and then you think you're done, and then they meet up with the mom, and you're like, oh, okay, we're gonna cry some more. Got it.
A reminder, when we were doing the predictions part of the podcast, or the first half of the podcast, rather, we said, you know, that this is going to be a spoiler review just because you can't talk about My Girl and why it's a tearjerker without spoiling it in general. And you said most people have seen it, which might be the case. Mm-hmm. Though, the further that we get in modern times, the least likely that will be, given the fact that it is old, and kids nowadays, they don't want to see old movies.
Are we classifying movies from the 90s old now?
What, the 30 years? Yeah.
Alright.
Technically, I mean, movies that came out just in the new millennium are old. I mean, but yes, My Girl, a majority of it, if you're talking about atmosphere, it's gloomy because it does deal so much with death. Like, death is a theme in the movie, but it's also going along those really lighthearted coming-of-age style films in which you just enjoy watching these people's lives unfold. You think it's funny because it's almost black comedy level because there is so much death. They live in a funeral home, you know, and her dad's not completely normal because he deals with death a lot. There's so much lighthearted stuff in the movie 90% of the time.
I mean, sure, it's definitely a coming-of-age story. You're definitely dealing with some cute kids who have stellar performances, yes, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, Dan Aykroyd is probably... I mean, I think of him as a comedian.
Yes, and he usually is a comedian. And usually, when you have a good comedian actor, they're going to have a handful of serious roles that they dip their toes in as well. Not a lot that Dan Aykroyd has done, but this is definitely up there as one of them, and probably his best.
Yeah. And Jamie Lee Curtis.
Also
has a solid performance. Like, you almost forget that it's her. She looks different than most of the time that you see her.
Yep.
And it's like when you see her, you're like, oh yeah, she's in this. You don't actually, like, think too much about it. But she also is pretty good in a kind of a comedic, more lighthearted role.
Yeah. Just like Freaky Friday. Just kidding. Well, you're saying about the kids having stellar performances. I had mentioned this when we were watching it, but in 1990, like, you didn't get that. Like, nowadays you do. They know how to scout kids out pretty well nowadays, but back then, they had trouble. They had a lot of trouble. A lot of them are corny, a lot of them are kooky, in a cutesy kind of way, but not ever really believable as performances go. And I believed our two lead kids' performances here. Macaulay Culkin and whatever her name is.
Anna Chlumsky.
Chlumsky.
There's an L in there somewhere.
Like
yeah, she's perfect.
She does a very good job. I know that she's done other stuff than My Girl. I know that, but like this is the only thing that I can think of her in.
Right. I actually don't think I've seen any of her other stuff other than My Girl and My Girl 2.
I'm sure you have. It's just that
no, because she's immediately recognizable to me when I do see her. Like if I see her a picture or something. But yeah, she is the reason people cry.
Yes. So let's spoil the movie here, because if you haven't seen it, then we already said that we're going to be spoiling it, so it's your fault for still listening. But if you have seen it, you know that later on in the film, we see Macaulay Culkin die of a bee sting because he's allergic to everything. He's Bubble Boy. But what struck me as odd is, even though it's his death that hits you as hard as it does, it is kind of his fault.
Well, sure.
He steps on the beehive, he hits it with whatever, sticks, whatnot.
He's a boy, and boys do silly things.
But he knows he's allergic to everything.
But he's probably never been stung by a bee before. He's young.
The thing about it is that you don't see him get stung and immediately like, oh no, God. You see the reactions of everybody else that are close to him, and that's what gets you.
Particularly, like, Anna's response, because, you know, Dan Aykroyd, he's sad, and he has to break it to her. But it's really her performance that unleashes the tears.
It unleashes the tears. Now, here's the thing. I did mention Rotten Tomatoes score earlier about how they spoke about it was a bad ending or whatever. And I will say it's a bad ending. It's lined up with everything else in the movie in terms of a theme on death. It makes sense. However, atmospherically, it does shift like a tide. And it's weird to feel the way that you're feeling throughout the movie and have it shift to that level.
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Level of a degree.
It is weird, but Veda's character is struggling with the concept of death throughout the entire movie. She fears it. She doesn't understand it. She lives in a funeral home, so I mean, like, she has to exist with it, but she's struggling with it. Hence the fact that every time that they bring in a new, for lack of a better word, a new corpse, she's running off to the doctor saying that she has cancer, or she has a chicken bone stuck in her throat, or she has something else wrong with her.
Yeah, the way that I personally saw that was empathy.
Well,
but, like, I guess you can see it as confusion, I suppose.
It's confusion and fear and, like, just not being...
I can understand confusion and fear and all that. I think people don't have this type of confusion around death, so I don't think that it's that relatable. I think that it is relatable to have empathy and to feel the things that others feel.
But part of the reason that she was confused is because she lives with it all around all of the time. It's part of her life, but she's never really experienced it. Yes, her mother died, but during childbirth or complications thereafter. And her grandma still is alive, though is not doing so well. I mean, she's never really experienced it, and her dad, through his own grief and his own issues, has never really talked to her about it. And so it's not until she experiences the death of her best friend that things start becoming clearer to her, and things actually start improving in that regard. Like, she has less confusion about it after that.
I mean, I get it. Like I said, as far as themes go, it's fine. If I'm looking at it like a narrative, like any other movie, I just think that shift makes sense for critics to not fully embrace it.
And I guess I've been exposed to this movie so many times and at such a young age that I've never thought twice about it, because that's just the movie and that's what I expect. That's what I get every single time.
So as far as it being a tearjerker, it affected you more than it affected me. I will say that what I said to you while watching is that I got a little bit misty-eyed when she was reacting to his death, but I mostly felt a lump in my throat. And that was about the extent of it for me. So I definitely got more emotional watching The Lovely Bones last week than I did for My Girl.
I was a mess. I was bawling. I had snot everywhere. I mean, I was crying pretty good.
I think it's a very good movie. It's a really iconic coming-of-age story that's unlike anything else, honestly. I can't think of, any coming-of-age movie that regards death other than Stand By Me.
Right.
So you have Stand By Me, and you got My Girl. My Girl's almost like the female counterpart,
I mean, kind of, but it's very different. I mean, in Stand By Me, they're just trying to see a dead body.
Yes. But there's more to Stand By Me narratively with the characters and everything that are important to note, but we're not talking about that. But let's go ahead and rate it as a movie on its own, just as a movie.
I mean, I'd put it at 80% because I love this movie. I grew up with this movie. I don't see any flaws with it, except maybe there's some pacing issues just with her dad and Shelley's relationship, because it was they go on one date and then all of a sudden they're engaged and it's summer vacation, okay? It's not that long of a time.
The movie does a pretty good job reflecting life, so the death happens suddenly, which would happen in real life. And as a kid, if you are living with a single parent and they start dating or whatever, you're not going to pay that much mind to it, and you're not going to think too much about it, and then suddenly they're going to be engaged, and you're going to be like, where did that come from?
Yeah, but this whole movie took place over summer vacation.
Yeah.
And so, we're not talking about a long period of time here. I'm just saying.
What I'll say is I'll rate it somewhere in the ballpark of 90%. And the reason why, it's kind of like I brought to you, it came out in 1990. But it has this essence about it that is timeless. And I said it's probably because of the lack of technology, which is the same thing that I feel when watching other things. When we watched The Peanut Butter Falcons, likewise, they didn't really have technology then. I told you that when we were watching, it kind of feels like it could have came out in 1990 as well. It has that timeless feeling to it.
Yeah, because this did take place in the 70s, but I never think about it taking place in the 70s because it really doesn't feel like that to me.
No, it does take place in the 70s?
Yeah, it was 1972. It's the very first thing on the movie.
I guess I look past that. I can't really believe it as a 70s movie.
I mean, the style, a little bit, but it's so subtle.
Yeah.
Because right now, you could walk in, if you were in a big enough group, you'd find somebody kind of dressed 70-esque. So, I mean, to me, I just don't think about it.
Yeah, so I'm still sticking with 90% in terms of the score because it is very well made. The kids are acting very well, which you don't usually get in 1990. And like I said, coming of age, iconic, original. I wouldn't say anything necessarily with cinematography really stood out to me, except for kind of out by the lake with the tree and the things like that. That stood out to me.
Yeah, that's also a use of symbolism. The weeping willow, I mean, they did refer to that at the end. I mean, that was important to her.
Yeah. So, I'm sticking with 90, but what about on the tear scale from 1 to 10?
I mean, I'll go with an 8 there too. I mean, I cried pretty good. It's not the worst I've ever cried.
No.
But, I mean, it's up there.
I'm going with 5.
Okay.
Going with 5 because, I could understand it. I just don't... I also have to go at it with, is the movie a tearjerker, or is the last part of the third act?
I think in most movies that are considered tearjerkers, and I'm thinking of the absolute classics that everybody brings up when you say the word tearjerker, it's always the end of the movie.
As long as it's building up to it,
Yeah,
I don't really consider My Girl to be building up. It just happens at the end. There's things throughout, but the actual atmosphere is not building up. That's why it doesn't really get me as much, personally. So yeah, My Girl. Between 80 to 90% on how good it is, and on the tear scale, between 5 and 8 out of 10. That's what we're sticking with. Which brings us to the next movie, or the last movie that we're talking about in this episode, which is called 7 Pounds, starring Will Smith.
Who is not my favorite.
No, obviously. To kind of give you a little bit of a refresher course here, there wasn't much to the premise that when I read it, it kept itself kind of a mystery, other than the fact that he was trying to change the lives of 7 strangers. Now, because we did spoil My Girl, I guess we could also spoil 7 Pounds in order to talk about it. a little bit more, because I don't know if we can talk about it whatsoever without spoiling it, because it's just so rooted in secrets.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I figured them out.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies where you start to figure things out early on, but you start to learn a little bit more and more as it goes on, because I turned to you, I'm like, everything that's happening that feels random in the movie, it all serves a purpose.
Of course. I mean, you will find a movie where it's a bunch of random stuff that doesn't serve a point, but it's a bad movie at that point. So if we're talking about a movie with any merit whatsoever, and there's random things happening, of course they're going to have a point.
I just like the movie in terms of how it takes all these puzzle pieces and it fits them all together in a way, in my opinion, that is emotionally rewarding. I love it because you're like, what the heck is he doing? Is he a jerk? Is he a good guy? What's going on here? Is he stalking people? What is he doing?
Oh, it's definitely stalking people.
Yeah, well, yes, but for a reason. And throughout the movie, it's just this constant question going on as to what is his plan. I mean, the movie starts off with him saying, I'm going to kill myself. But what happened? Like, did this happen in the past? Is it going to happen in the future? We don't really know. It doesn't tell you. And it just kind of goes on from there.
I mean, usually when any type of story starts that way with, like, the ending, I mean, usually it's a pretty... Because, I mean, a lot of movies and stories do. They start at the end and then just kind of rewind and go back and explain how you got there. However, I've always been told that is a crappy way to tell a story.
Well, it depends.
If you have to explain yourself, you did something wrong.
There was no explaining there. It started off with, what the heck? And anyways, if you've never seen it, basically Will Smith's character, he's signaling in on a lot of different people, 7 to be exact, and he's interviewing them, he's asking questions, he's pretending to be somebody else, sometimes he's pretending to be himself, and he's just trying to figure out the character of people. He's trying to figure out, are these people good? Because he mysteriously has some kind of gift that could change their life for the better. And he's trying to figure out if they deserve it. A majority of the stories does, though, revolve around his relationship, this budding relationship and love for the woman that he runs into. A big part of it's a love story.
Which I didn't really like. I know you're like, oh, they're so good together. I didn't see any standout performances. I didn't see any standout chemistry. It was fine.
What's her name again?
Rosario Dawson.
Yeah. Rosario Dawson and Will Smith, I believe, have chemistry. First time that they appeared together, if I'm not mistaken, was in Men in Black 2. And I really liked that storyline in Men in Black 2. I thought that they had a lot of chemistry together that worked pretty well. But it wasn't really explored very much. There was only like a hint.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Of it. So I wanted them to have their own movie together, and of course we have it here. I think they might show up together in another movie, but I'm not entirely sure about that. But this
I feel like a weird sci-fi, because I think I've seen them in like weird...
Black is sci-fi.
No, I think it's something else, but I could be wrong.
But this was their main movie together, and I like it. I like their chemistry together again here, but I probably prefer it in Men in Black 2. But should we spoil the whole idea?
I don't care.
Of course you don't care. So the idea here is the reason why he's trying to help 7 people, 7 lives, is because sometime before the events happened, he was about to get married to a woman who he loved, and he was texting and driving, which killed her in a crash, as well as 6 other people. And he is the sole survivor of this crash, and he feels responsible, which is why when Rosario Dawson's character asks him if he's, a good man or whatever, he's like, unremarkable is a step up from what I am, I assure you.
What I don't like is, why isn't he just in jail? I mean, typically if you're responsible for an accident that killed a bunch of people, you're usually in jail.
Who's to say he wasn't in jail?
I guess.
That
but
happened
they
in
don't...
the past. We don't know how long ago. He definitely looked a little bit younger, and it could have been years. Who knows?
I guess.
But, so, he wants to fix things, make things right, ruin the lives of 7 people, so he wants to fix the lives of 7 people to make retribution. And he has this plan to basically do that by organ donation.
Yeah,
you know?
unorthodox.
Yeah, and one of the people he gives his stuff to is his brother. He's already done that in the past. There's some people that he's already done it to in the past.
Right.
Like, this isn't the start of his plan. It's like in the middle of it, towards the end. And Woody Harrelson plays a character in this who's blind. He gives his cornea transplant to him.
It's not all organ transplant. He gives just like a safe house. To
He does, yeah. The Spanish woman who's suffering through domestic abuse, he gives her his home. Lots of little things here that throughout the runtime of the movie, it's weird. It's bittersweet because it's feel good because he's doing a good deed, kind of being a good Samaritan in a way. But in the same way, it's tragic because of the grief that he feels like he has to do this for in the first place. So I like it, especially. So this is one of those things where at the third act hits the hardest emotionally, and I'll agree with that as well. But there was a building up for sure from beginning to end. Like it was getting to that point. Like that getting to that point was always the purpose of 7 pounds. Like that's what it wanted to get to, and that's where it went.
That's fine.
That's not what my girl did.
Well, I mean, to each their own. I had completely dry eyes for the entire film.
Yes.
I will say the cinematography at times was really good. There were scenes that struck me as like perfectly put together.
There are some good looking scenes in 7 pounds for sure. Now, your dry eyes comments is a mix between you not liking Will Smith in general, so already having a bad taste in your mouth.
Okay, but I also really didn't believe his performance. He didn't do much.
Because part 2, you saying that he looks like he's smelling a fart throughout the runtime of the movie.
Well, he did. Well, he did.
So while you're sitting there laughing at your own jokes, you're not exactly in the mindset to fully embrace the emotional side.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I don't need to be. Like,
You know
I
what?
can cry at a drop of a pin. It's fine.
You know what gets me emotionally about the movie is not so much, a little bit about Will Smith's, flashbacks to what happened with his wife and this spot where he's like in the middle of a rock and a hard place where he feels like there's no other option to do, even when he feels a glimmer of hope that maybe he doesn't have to do this. These are moments of his performance that get me. However, it's probably more Rosario Dawson's performance that gets me, as well as his best friend that is loyal to him, who doesn't want to do this, but has promised him to do it. Like, there's these moments with all these other people, the lives that he's struck, and their reactions to everything that get me a little bit more. Woody Harrelson does almost nothing in the movie. Very little role from him. But his small moments get me too. Like, he's just a very gentle, innocent, childlike character who's very kind in general. And at the very end, when he and Rosario meet, that gets me too. Like, it's like she's got his heart, he's got his eyes, and it all comes together like a nice fit of a glove. But I will say, I wasn't as emotionally invested as I wanted to be because you kept making remarks about fart faces.
If you don't want to hear remarks about fart faces, then don't hang out with me.
Maybe next time I'm watching one of your movies, I'll say, ooh, look at that fart face.
And I will be like, yes, absolutely, because I don't show favoritism. If they look like they're smelling a fart, I'll call them on it.
Fine. Let's give it a score here. A final overall score of our 7 pounds.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it works. I think it's got some really nice cinematography. I think the story was good. I wanted more from the performances. So 70.
I will score it 80. I think when I first scored it, it was mid-90s. I liked it that much. It was one of my favorite Will Smith movies out there. That has dropped down a little bit. He's gone up in terms of his skills and the movies that he attempts to make. I think in this part of his career, it was a weird point in his life where he was doing a lot of comedy, a lot of blockbusters, and he was just trying to dip his toes a little bit into drama. And he hadn't quite gotten there fully yet. When we go on to a further season, when we talk about Will Smith, we will be watching the movie that got him his Oscar for Best Actor. And I'll be interested to see if you agree with that nomination, because I certainly did. It was a completely different way of seeing Will Smith, personally. There's other movies of his that I thought were also really good, but that's for another talk show. But again, this is no longer my favorite of Will Smith, but it is a movie that I look at that has a warm place in my heart. It's one of my favorites to rewatch, put it that way.
Okay.
Tier scale, 1 to 10.
Personally, I would say like 0, but I will give it a 2 just because I can understand why people would be emotional watching it. It just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, when we were doing our little research on trying to find tearjerkers for this list, at least movies that we have seen, 7 Pounds definitely came up on a few different lists. It's not a movie that everybody loves. It's one of those more dramatic films that people appreciate one-time watch of and don't feel necessary to watch over and over again. I disagree with that. I think it's worth more than one watch, especially because it's something that after you watch it once, you can go back and appreciate what he was doing from the beginning. That you cannot get your first time watch with it ever again. It's one of those types of movies. So a second time watch, you definitely have more appreciation in certain ways. Tier scale, I would put it in the realm of 7 out of 10. Back and forth between 6 and 7. Because I know that for me personally, it's got a part of being emotional and watching a movie is the situation that you're in. Like where you're watching it, when you're watching it. Is it going to be interrupted? Are you in the middle of eating? Are you doing whatever? Like, it all depends on how you're situated when you watch it. Like, I have more emotional in theory while watching in the past. Like, been more in a spot that would hit me harder. But I wasn't fully, there either for being emotional while I am now. It is a kind of a catch-22. The rating is between 70 and 80%, and on the tier scale, you're going somewhere between 2 and 7. Take that as you will, apparently. But no, it really is found on a lot of different people's tearjerker lists.
That's fine, but there are things that make me cry that everybody thinks I'm crazy for, and vice versa.
There are,
to each their own.
By the way, other lists that don't have this on, almost all of them have another Will Smith movie called The Pursuit of Happiness.
And actually, for some reason, that's what I thought we were watching. I was waiting for his kid to show up.
Oh, yeah. No, Pursuit of Happiness, I'm actually a little bit more curious to watch now. I do really like that movie. That one's another era type of movie. It takes place in the 70s. It's a true story. I like that one a lot. All right. No, I really like that one. I can't wait. But yeah, that was 7 Pounds. And that's it for the podcast, though. Guys, if you have seen either movie, My Girl or 7 Pounds, please leave in the comments down below what you thought of each one. Was either of them a tearjerker in your experience, or just a fun movie to watch once or twice or 50 times in some people's cases? So leave those down below and tell us once again your favorite tearjerker, and we'll catch you next week on the Critic and the Cynic. Peace out.
Bye.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.